What makes a winner? I don't know if I'm really in a position to answer. I've won some and lost some, but I'm certainly not special by any means, so I'm left to ponder what goes on in the minds of those who are truly exceptional. Is it just a greater desire to win than the rest of us? Do they think faster? Do they see farther? Do they simply interpret the world differently? I'll never be able to say for sure, but today I'll get the chance to talk to a winner about his journey through the peaks and valleys of his chosen craft. This is Rexen.
Bro, the shot I hit on this guy, I ran at his mirror while he was on it and just fucking fried him.
And he'll continue to look in a different direction. NAL picked back up. Rexen will take the fight right to them. He's got two more lined up, and he'll connect with all three of them. There go the smokes. Soniqs now playing in blue and in church. Rexen with one onto Onigiri. This is going to be a dogfight between the two teams. Wall goes off. Super primed and ready with a shotgun. He's got one kill. He's going to need a second. This could be huge on him. Swinger v swap. He takes down the diffuser. SMG out, but he's not enough to do anything to DCH. 10 seconds left. Rexen now watches the breach. Lots of damage being done. A nice shot from Elevate will need to dislodge him from this position. DCH on the diffuser. Nay to cover. He's got to find both bodies. There's one. The second is Rexen, and he can't get the diffuser in time. DCH pops up. He knows where he is, and what a clutch from Rexen! Look at Sapper on the ground, but he doesn't see them. He looks in the wrong direction. A second kill before Rexen silences him. Super's been down, so it's Rexen in a 1v2. There goes Nay, a 1v1, as DCH is also down. They're just bleeding out on the floor. Onigiri in such low HP. There he goes with the final kill, 10 seconds. No. And Rexen capitalizes and an ace to start map 3. Richie, my boy, take them all.
Like most Siege players, Rexen would have a wide variety of titles he enjoyed to play growing up.
I played a lot of Halo on Xbox. That was my favorite game, possibly one of my favorite franchises of all time. I have my room, if you're able to see it, has a lot of posters and like, you know, figures and stuff like that. Halo was really good. I played COD, Mass Effect, Lost Planet. I just mainly played whatever I wanted. And then as I got older, my freshman going into my sophomore year of high school, I was coming back from my friend's house, and my mom had told me, she had heard on the radio, you can get a scholarship for League of Legends. So that is how I started playing computer games in the first place, was because she's like, hey, if you play League of Legends, there's a chance you get a scholarship for playing video games, and since you play video games all the time, you can try that. So that's actually how I started playing computer games. So I would play that, and then I saw my friends from school would play Counter-Strike. I would play Counter-Strike with them, and then Gary's Mods, another game. So I would play those kinds of games, and then I played those at my uncle's house because I wasn't allowed to play shooting games at home when I was on my dad's side. Parents were split, so yeah, no. I started playing League, Gary's Mods, CS:GO, and then going into my junior year of high school, I went over to my cousin's house, and he was playing Siege, and I didn't really hear much about the game on release, but I assumed it was going to be just a third game of Rainbow Six Vegas 2, which is like it's a first person, but it goes in the third base, like cover system, and then you can command your AI, and it's like a PvE game. There's PvP in it, but not so much. So I assumed that's what it was going to be, and when I did play the game, it was nothing like it. But I really enjoyed the game. Didn't even mean to pursue a competitive career; it just kind of happened.
So he's playing Siege, and the competitive drive was already there, but he didn't head straight for the top. Simply playing a game he enjoyed, naturally climbing the ranks as his talent became obvious.
I would play. Obviously, I played a lot of ranked. I didn't pursue the game at all competitively. I kind of just played it a lot. Like the ranked kids nowadays, I literally would just sit and play for 12 hours a day just because I enjoyed the game. And yeah, I would play, and if I versed someone that was better than me or gave me a hard time or beat me and they did really good, I would add them and I would try and play with them because obviously I want to play with better players. I want to hit the higher ranks. So I kept doing that, and my old teammate, good friend of mine, Keon Hyena, I would run into him a lot, and it was like secure area. I didn't play bomb at all for the very beginning of the game because I didn't understand it, and it was harder because there's 2 bomb sites. I had no idea. I just played secure area, so I ran into him a lot, and we started queuing together. And then I had a couple other friends. I had a friend from school that would help teach me the game. I was playing Go Fours. That's how I got in. So I'd play the community Go Fours, and I finally won Go For. I think it was 140. So I'd play these Go Fours, and I had a couple other friends that played ranked. And what would happen was I finally won one, and then in 2018, Dreamhack Austin, that was the first event I went to. Now, the way I got to that event was I was playing, I think it was the Chalet Secure Area ranked game, and I seen these dudes tagged up. It was 3 dudes. It was a guy called Boostin, John Jackson, and I think Polaris. All old friends of mine. But they all had tags in their name, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. I want to do that. How do I join it? So I messaged them, and they're like, hey, you got to message our org owner. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. So I messaged him, and he told me I couldn't join that team, but if they had an available opening on another one, they could. So it's like maybe 2 people ran this org. It wasn't really big or serious, but I was like, okay, cool, whatever. So that is how I initially found out about competitive, was seeing these guys tagged up in a rank game. And then, yeah, we got our team. So then it was me, Keon, and then a couple other people. I forget. My buddy Gabe, and we would play the Go Fours. And then obviously, I won 140. But what happened was 2018 June was Dreamhack Austin, and I was supposed to go with a completely different roster, but because people didn't show up, and we did a couple roster moves. It was me, Nightcap, Yellow Fever, Hyena, and Execration. That was the roster we did it with. It was the first event I ever went to. It was the first time I had ever traveled out of my state, because I'm from California, and I pretty much had no idea what was happening. But I went to the airport. It was a BYOC. It was a bring your own computer, and I brought my computer in my duffel bag, and I had to run across 4 terminals. It was not a good time, but I had a great time doing it. So I went to that event. We lost to Crazy, the old Pro League players, like Crazy, I think ZZ, and 3 other guys, I forget who. But we lost them, and if we had won that game, we would have made main stage.
He says it like it's nothing, but as a kid, to pick up your computer and fly states away from home to compete at a LAN event is no small feat, and looking back at it, it would go on to foreshadow who he would become. Following Dreamhack Austin would come a failed first run at Challenger League, but he wouldn't come close to quitting, doubling down and forming 92 Dream Team, who would go on to battle their way not only into Challenger League, but farther than that, finding his way onto his first org.
That's when I joined 92, was because my buddy Hyena, that used to be my teammate, was on a different team, and then we just stopped playing together. He got dropped for, I forget what issue. Me and him had an issue, and he got dropped. But he's like, hey, do you want to make a new team again? It's me, you, Yardy, who was that? Filthy, and Execration. I think that was the original team. After I had lost my Challenger League quals, and so did Keon, we decided, he's like, yo, let's make a new team with this guy, like the super team of CL, and we'll do well. So we just made that roster, and we did very well. We made CL. But it was weird because when we made CL, I think we had a hot start, and then we fell off. Like, we could never beat Tunes. I think we always tied Tunes, or DG. I think we always tied DG is who it was. We had issues with certain teams, but we barely scraped by to make the playoffs. And then in the playoffs, we won. We beat OC, and then we beat, I think it was SQ, who we had to play for the spot in Pro League, yes. Which, I mean, those guys were cheating by streaming their game to Redeemer, and he was calling for them how to play the game. So we beat them while they were cheating, which was pretty cool. And yeah, and then we made Pro League, and then halfway through the season, I think, is when we joined Vicious. We got paid $500 a month, and they gave us some pre-workout. It wasn't pre-workout. It was supposed to like some gaming substance to drink, like what is it called, like G Fuel.
That org was short-lived, however, ending as they were on the verge of winning Challenger League after a lack of pay.
So they didn't pay us, so we were able to get out of that, which is great, because obviously we don't want to be binded to a contract. It was, I'm pretty sure they didn't pay us, and it was the contracts were very short. I think it was a bit of both. I mean, I could always ask Adam or Keon, because they'll know for certain. But I'm most positive we didn't get paid for 1 month, so I was like, okay, we're finding out of our contract, not an issue.
Nothing new in esport, but with the spot in Pro League, there was room to find a new banner.
I had quit my job because, this isn't something I planned for, but I was like, okay, I want to pursue this. Like, I could do this. So I quit my job in February of 2019, which, 4 months later is when I made Pro League. So I made CL. I was like, all right, I'm going to, try and pursue this. Let's see how it goes. So I did that, and obviously it went well. So the way Luminosity worked is we had made Pro League, and then, as every team does, you put your portfolio, or whatever you want to call it, on Twitter and be like, hey, this is us. These are our accomplishments. We want an org. And we reached out to a few different people. My coach Virus at the time, we reached out to like 100 Thieves, LG, a bunch of different orgs. We had no idea. We just reached out, hey, we're a team in R6Ds. You want to get a team in here, yada yada. And then LG hit back, and we initially were supposed to be getting paid 3,500, but because of our first 2 games, we did so well, they bumped us up, and we got 4,000. So I had quit my job on MHCL. I, for sure had a livable wage on 4,000. It was pretty good. So 4,000. I had a W-2, so I was an independent contractor. Or no, I didn't have a W-2. I was an independent contractor, so you have to put money aside for taxes. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, then we did that, and then we moved into the team house in like August or September.
No one will argue that the step up into Pro League is a game changer for the upcoming player, but Rexen had already faced a great deal of adversity before that, so it wasn't entirely new to him.
Dreamhack Montreal, I mean, that was obviously an eye opener for to be fair, towards the beginning of my career, my first few matches I had to play in were pretty fucking hard. Sorry for the language. I had to play against, Liquid in their prime. I had to play against G2, PDS, and that was pretty much my bracket, like 3 events in a row. I'm not even kidding. 2 out of 3 of those teams were in 3 of my brackets every event. So it was definitely an eye opener and something to get used to, and that is why we made roster changes. And on top of that, the game was very different back then because at the time, for example, I thought my roster was really good, and we were good individually, but not as a team. So going to DreamHack Montreal, I'm pretty sure my bracket, it was Liquid. I'm trying to remember. Liquid BDS. Oh, yep. So yeah, BDS had to go through the open bracket. I remember because listen, Pixel got dropped because of me mainly because I watched him with an insane kill. It was against BDS. It was on Consulate. It was the game Shaiko came back and had like kill record. That game we were playing, and he was Pulse. No. He was Zofia, I'm pretty positive. And Pulse was under the stairs. Remember Visa had a staircase going down straight into kitchen door? Like there was the old staircase, old Consulate. He was Pulse with the scanner out. He got drunk by Zofia, and Zofia had his canister out, and he whipped his entire mag and then died. And then when I saw that, I'm not saying I was the best teammate, but I just stood up and I was just like, oh my God. Like I didn't say anything to him, but I was, thinking that like, this is insane. Like, this guy has got to go because you just cannot be losing kills like that. But, yeah, no, we went there. I don't know if we won a game or not, but after we had that, we had the roster change and we dropped Pixel and we picked up, I think it was Factor. I think it's who we picked up at the time. But, going from domestic to international, definitely a huge step up in competition, and obviously the players are better.
His first season in Pro League could only be called a success, finishing 4th in his freshman outing, but while the next season wasn't quite as strong, falling down to 6th, he would go on to see the worst side of esports organizations yet again.
We didn't really play too well. We messed up the season. I think we got like 6th or 7th. So during that time, LG was not being transparent with us, and we didn't even know we were dropped until I was told by another pro player in a scrim. So I don't understand, like, did people just forget what LG did? Because at the time, it was, Razor, Pitchforks, and Torches, oh, screw LG, should never let them back in, yada, yada. But now they're back in the league with another roster. So I still don't like that org. It was literally at the start of COVID. We didn't even know. They wouldn't tell us anything. But we got a call after that and like, hey, you guys are getting dropped, yada, yada. So after, yeah, we got dropped, and then I moved back home. And that was pretty much what happened with that. That team, it wasn't the best, but it wasn't bad. It was a good start to my career, and I enjoyed playing with those guys. They were all pretty funny. I don't think they were bad at all. We were good at the time, I think.
It was a huge hit, but yet again, undeterred, he would find himself on another roster, this time in the form of Rent Free, and it wouldn't take more than a stage before we would see Rexen in Pro League again, this time wearing a different jersey and surrounded by talent. Even with those fantastic individuals around him, however, Eunited would struggle to find their footing, winding up with a record that did not reflect their potential. So what held them back?
I think that team was just time. We didn't have a lot of time together. Xander was never on a high-placing team, or Yeti. I came from LG, so I had a bit of experience, but obviously not much. I didn't play that much. Xander had a longer career than all of us. And so it was me, Xander. Evan was a rookie. Alfama came from EU, and then Pablo also, that was I think his first season of Pro League, or maybe his second. He was still fresh, so I think we just need a little bit more time for that team. I still think to this day, if I didn't troll, I had a clip I had posted where I got like a 4K on DZ. It was on Villa, and I got a 4K, and I choked it because I swung and I died. If I didn't do that, we would have won that match, and we would have got top 4 and made the major. So, I mean, obviously there was other reasons we lost that game, but I still feel like if I didn't do that, I told my team that we would have made a major with that roster, because people obviously at the end of the day it's who wins, but I feel like they seem to forget like how close those matches were. We had never lost a game not NOT on that team. Every game we played, the losses we had were 8-7. Like we never had a game where we got blown out.
So competitive, just a little too young to push it over the hump, is basically.
Yes, I still feel, we had a bit more time, a couple more weeks, we would have done way better, and we would have proven people wrong, which is we were always the underdogs, and that was what we were striving for, was because a lot of these janitors that played the game before us would have egos, and then they would obviously like trash us because FPL had came out during that time, and me and Pablo would farm it all the time. We would always win it, and they would always have something to say when they were never good. So that was, I feel like, a main driving point for us, is like playing out of spite and like to prove people wrong that we're better than them. At least that's a main driving factor for me.
Performance aside, the results the team found were poor at best, and as a result, Rexen would find himself looking at bad news yet again.
After United got same thing happened a few months later. LG pulled out, United pulled out, but they were more transparent with us, which is the great. Burns was the general manager at the time. Great guy. He was good to us. I've always respected him. He's a good guy. But he just kept it real with us and was like, hey, like you guys are out of a job pretty much. And I was like, okay, cool. And then he helped us whatever we needed to get home.
Searching for a banner to play under, this time he would get an offer, but not liking the landscape. He would say thanks, but no.
Soniqs had asked me to try out, so I tried out. It was the worst tryout I've ever done, because that was it was pretty bad. I'll never forget screaming on Villa, and easily telling me to hop out the 90 window was mute because Jackal was mud window. So I hopped out doing what he said, and I think I died or I made it back in. But his response after doing that was, "You just got to play smarter, bro." And I was just didn't know what to say. I mean, it's my tryout, so I'm not gonna argue with this guy in my tryout. But I was just like, whatever, just water down my back. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, that's just insane to me. To me, it wasn't a good environment. I didn't like it, so I didn't want to play. So I messaged Seth after. I was like, hey, I appreciate you trying me out. Thanks for the offer, but I don't want to play, pretty much is what I told him. And he's like, okay, and I respect your decision, yada, yada. And then I moved on.
However, behind the scenes, all the pieces were falling into place.
So I knew I wanted Rexen and Grixer. With Evan and Yeti, that wasn't obvious. I actually had a lot of concerns about Yeti. Yeti had kind of developed, I would say at that point of his career, a reputation as somebody who's kind of like a fringe pro league player. Like he would always be in that, like he would bounce back and forth between Challenger League and like one of the bottom pro teams. And Evan was just like not really that known at that point. He had only played, I think, like a year, or maybe not even a year, like a stage in pro league. So they weren't initially my immediate people that we wanted. We actually ended up playing with Dream and Creators. Creators was coming off Tempo Storm, where he was like a really good statistical player for them, but they never had like a ton of success. And it just didn't feel right with that team. I know Richie told me at that time, like he just did not want to play with Creators. He thought Creators was like a baiter essentially. And then Creators told me that he wanted to play with Richie, but he didn't want to play with Grixer because he preferred Dream to Grixer. And so it just created, and like truthfully, I always was with Grixer. Like me and Grixer at that point were essentially like a duo. So like Creators kind of eliminated himself from the equation. Richie didn't want to play with Creators either. So like that was that. We decided we didn't want to play with Dream. And so we basically just got to the point where it's like, well, why don't we just try out these guys? And I will say I was like hesitant because I was like, well, Eunited were not good. So like, why would the same team with me be that much better? But once I started playing with them, saw their play style, and I think the talent that they had and the chemistry that they already had built with each other, and how I was kind of able to slide in and naturally have chemistry with them. Um, it just worked. I think it was lucky a little bit, honestly, but yeah, it just seemed it pretty much started working from like day one.
Finding himself in good company, making essentially just a roster change and a jersey swap, it's clear that looking back, he's happy with his choice to move to the Soniqs.
So I was like, hey, I'll join if I can get these two guys with me, because obviously we just played in the previous roster, and I believe they were really good, better than any of the candidates we had lined up. So I told him, I was like, hey, I'm only going to join if they can join with me. And he's like, okay. So then him and Pablo were trying out different people for a period of time. And then he got back to me and was like, okay, we could pick these guys up. But joining the Soniqs, I mean, I've been with the Soniqs since pretty much my entire career. I probably will be with the Soniqs till the wheels fall off. But I mean, we've had success the entire time, besides recently. But I mean, we've had success pretty much our entire careers every time. Uh, and I've really enjoyed my time on the team.
From a bottom spot on Eunited to a top team in Teal, what changed?
What changed is not only getting better as players, but like the system they had set in. We always have it was like a 3-1-1 most of the time. So three together, one lurker, and then usually Xander was our other lurker if we needed someone. He was, our flank watcher. It was Evan, but Xander would sometimes do it too. I think the reason we had so much success is because Seth, even he says himself, his mechanics aren't good, but he's pretty much like a second coach. Like the effort he puts in. He obviously has a lot of passion for the game, and he cares a lot about the success of the team, which has always been his goal, which is something I respect a lot about. Is all he cares is how the team will do. It's never about his own feelings. It's just he wants to win, and I've seen that obviously for being on the team for years. And yeah, so I think Seth, he did a lot, and he still does do a lot. Like he'd watch VODs, he'd make our strats, he'd help call. Like it wasn't him always solely calling. Like I will say, Xander and I did call a lot too, like adaptations. But pretty much, we would just go over a strat. It didn't matter how we got to that point, as long as we got to it, and then we do our execute. And I feel like that had so much success for us, just the way it worked. Yeah, so we just had a different sense of leadership, and I guess we really wanted to prove to people that we were better than what had happened. So obviously, Seth, besides his time on Rogue, he was always like a 5th place, like just shy of getting like to the majors, and then picking up a new roster. We hadn't had good results before, so we're all hungry and want to strive to improve. So lots of double scrims every day. Didn't do much VOD review, but we would do our strats, and then just I feel like we had good chemistry as a team. I'll be honest, a lot of it was chemistry and playing off of each other. I thought we were really good at it.
The team made a spectacular debut in Stage 1, and after finding his footing, Rexen showed up huge in Stage 2, arguably being snubbed for MVP that year. But was he always that good and never been allowed to shine, or had he reached new heights?
Obviously, I think highly of myself. I think I have a high skill ceiling, and I think I was getting used to playing on LAN at first, and then after I had gotten used to it, I started picking it up because it's very different team. You're playing on a stage, and then obviously I got used to that and I picked it up. So yeah, no, I mean I think Pablo and I have been the two probably most consistent players in NA for a very long time. We've always been at the top. We've always done very well. I think we have good chemistry together. I think we both have, like, when a solo play has to be made, we can do it. Like we find gaps, we take the opening, and if we win the round, we win the round. If not, it is what it is. You go on to the next.
With the first major of the year in their sights, the Soniqs headed to Mexico with high hopes, only to fall short. But they didn't sulk, they learned. And it seems everyone on that team had fond memories of their time in Mexico despite the early exit.
Mexico was the first event we made as a team, obviously. And we would have made an event before that, but there was no major then. So we just got the top 4 finish. So that's the first event we went to. It was pretty cool. The whole event, just side notes, like they had redone the hotel and there was siege on the doors, and it was just a cool event. But anyways, I think we fell short because a lack of experience and nerves. Obviously, these new teams we've never played against. So when you play against different regions, regardless if you're better than them or not, you should never underestimate them because they all have different play styles. And for example, like the APAC teams have really stepped it up over the years. before that they were not really good, and you would just think, okay, like we're just gonna out aim them. But those guys got shooters. Like I will say, APAC has shooters, and then EU was always very structured, and then Brazil always had like freaks, like Faze, like with cameraman. So there's difference in play style and nerves. And I don't think it was really anyone's fault. I think it was just as a team we try to play better, and that's always been the mindset going forward. Regardless, like it's never one person's fault why you're losing, unless they're like 0-14 and actively trolling the game. There's always something you could have done better, and no player's perfect. So unless you think otherwise, and you got issues, but I've always thought that regardless of how good I've done individually, there's always something I could have done better or calmed better or played a different position differently to win the round. And that's when it comes down to like it's a team game.
Sweden didn't go that well either, but returning from that event, the Soniqs would go to put in work and return stronger than ever. First proving they were the best at home before finally translating all that potential to success on Siege's biggest stage. But what was life like getting ready for that?
NAL Finals, I think, were right after the major we had played. And then right after that was Invite. So for 3 months, it was double scrims every single day and then a 30 to 45-minute debrief after. And that was like, it was just draining because it was just so much Siege every single day. Routine would be we'd wake up, we'd double scrim, and then we'd go to the gym and then either stream, if we wanted to, and then just repeat. And that was it. That was my routine for 3 months. I enjoyed it. Looking back on it now, it was draining during the time, but we had put forth a lot of effort. We got good results, and even then we could have got higher. I still think to this day, if bracket was different, or if we had beat Empire, that we would have won the event. I think we would have beat TSM because I think we looked a lot better than them.
They finished the Invitational top 6 with a brutal loss to Empire that could have led them to lifting the hammer themselves, but it wasn't to be. However, Rexen would go on to prove himself to be world class at that event, ending up in the top 10 when it was all said and done. Returning to the North American League was hard on the Soniqs, and they would go on to miss the major. Going into Stage 2, however, they returned to form, but there was change brewing as they headed to Berlin for what would now be the last event the team would play with Super. They had the drive to let him go out on a high note, but it simply wasn't to be. At least the team would pull out one positive from that event.
We didn't win the event, but we beat Faze on one of their maps that they had not lost in a very long time, so that was pretty cool.
Going into Berlin, the team was already aware Gunnar, a talented rookie who had just had a breakout performance at home, would be joining the team following Super's retirement. Unfortunately, what the team didn't know is that Gio would find himself looking for a home at the same time, and with him being a natural replacement for Super, they would need room for Gunnar as well. A decision not made by the team, but by Super believing it to be best for those he was leaving behind.
Gio to me was an obvious replacement for myself. I thought Gunnar was essentially like a better version of Yeti, and Gio in some aspects was a better version of me, so I thought that just made sense.
There's nothing harder than a decision being made for you, however, and this wasn't an easy time for Rexen or the team.
I mean, definitely uncomfortable. Wasn't my decision, and I tried to fight for him, and that's not what happened. Okay, so I still remember the day of how it went down. We had gotten back from the major. We knew Gunnar was joining the team. We got back from the major. And it's like 7 in the morning. I'm queuing up for a league game. Evan knocks on my door, and he's like, "Hey, Seth wants to talk to us." So I'm like, "Okay, sure, let's talk." And I'm thinking in my head, well, Seth and Evan aren't, particularly close. Why does he want to talk to, me and him? That wouldn't make any sense. Something bigger's happening. Xander, coincidentally enough, was not at the house. I forget what he was. I think he was going to pick up his car from Valet or something. I don't know what it was. But pretty much I went in there, and they're like, "Hey, we want to drop Xander for Yeti." And then pretty much my argument was for Gio, that's not a question because Gio is a better player. Like I told Xander that. Like it's like I'm just honest. Gio is a better player than him, and I'll always stand by that. But my whole thing was like, we waited for this time. Like we waited for like, okay, we get a fair chance without Seth as a team to see how far we'll perform. And that was the main point I used. I was like, hey, like this isn't fair. It's kind of something we really waited for. We were pretty happy to do, and he doesn't get that chance. And that was unlucky to him. But I mean, still to this day, I still think that was the right move. Regardless of how I felt at the time, that still was the right play because Gio did help us, win a lot more domestically and place higher international events. So
it was hard, but professionals go to work regardless of what happens, and Rexen is no different. Going on to find a new peak, placing top 4 at the next major, the team looked great, but there was more turmoil to come as Kansan would be dropped in place of Citizen. Kansan, while rarely flashy, felt like a core player for the Soniqs, and it's clear that his loss was felt by the team. But they would carry on with Citizen to play at Invite 2023, an event that would start with a bang, but end on the wrong side of one of Siege's greatest moments.
I mean, that event really pissed me off because not only that, I also stayed after it and I had friends there and I obviously really wanted to play and go far, which, if we had won, that would have been a completely different story. I think that like all stemmed from that DZ game on the very last round. I mean, I've even talked to Pablo with it and Pablo felt really bad because he made a bad play, but that last round when it was a 3v2 and both the guys were box 3 and he didn't swing blue and we all died, like that was probably one of the most angry points in my career I've been because that was such an easily winnable round that we didn't win. And then we got knocked to lower bracket. And I'll never forget on, besides getting clutched on theme park, which we were having good attacks. Hopped in throne and I get a smokes flanking dragon stairs in the first 30 seconds of the round, and then I lost. I hit him twice and I died, and then my heart kind of sank because it's like it's theme park, regardless of how good I know my teammates are. It's theme park attack, bro. Like that map is hard to attack. So it's yeah. So I died. And I was like, fuck, dude, I trolled my team. I'm sorry. Yeah, is what it is. But I mean, no, that really sucked. That was not a good feeling to have because we would have went far in that event. I know we would have, and obviously the results say otherwise. But no, I was extremely disappointed with that event and how it went down.
We'll get back to this event in a minute, actually, but for now, let's jump up to Invite 2024, where the team would come in replacing Gunnar with another up-and-comer in Ambi, but it should be said, Rexen has plenty to say about Gunnar.
I don't agree with dropping him. I mean, Seth even owns it. That was solely his decision because I think Gunnar is good. Gunnar is just a little different. Like, it's just different play styles. Like Gunnar is always a player that might be an idiot, but he's gonna get you the opening kill or he's gonna die. It's kind of just his play style. And in a sense, I can see the similarity in Merc because Merc is also a very aggressive player on attack or defense. No matter what, he's going to be in their face. He's either going to get you the opening kill or he's going to die. It's just kind of how that goes. That's the way I see the game. That's just my opinion. I think Gunnar's a really good player. Obviously, he's doing very well on BeastCoast. He has high highs and he has low lows. It is what it is. But I just wanted to say that in because I do like Gunnar. He's a really good friend of mine, and I still do think he is very good. And I'm happy he has success in another team. So I'm always going to be like in his corner.
That being said, he has high praise for Ambi as well, even if there was concerns going forward in terms of team composition.
But with Ambi's also another really good player. And the way we saw it was just like, oh, it's just like a better gunner because Ambi is like mechanically gifted. Ambi is very, very good. So obviously our concern was, okay, we have a new player. He's a rookie. Let's just take a chance in him because typically, these players, you just pick up a rookie and then put him in your system and they'll eventually figure it out. And I feel like that's what Ambi's doing. My main concern was the role swap. So from my time being on the Soniqs, I've always not in the very beginning, but I've always just, got used to like, okay, I'll flex. Whatever someone doesn't want to play, I'll pick that role up. And I mean, as you can see now, I've played every role now. Played flank watch for a brief stint. I played hard breach. I played entry. I played second entry. I've played vert. Like I've played all these roles on defense. I've played roam. I've played anchor. I've played bridge, like the flex role. I've played it all, and that's always how I've been. Just like okay, we can try it. Obviously, I have my own comfort spots. Like I've always been entry, but I don't like entry as much as I used to. I like playing second entry now or the soft breach because I like that of the flex. I like those roles now. Just I feel like it fits me better. But that was my main issue when we first started was the roles. Like, okay, well, if we're picking up Ambi, obviously the issue we've had since we have picked up Ben was the roles. And the reason that was is because Ben's a lurker. Pablo's a lurker. Okay, what do we do now? We have two people that play the same way. Okay, if we drop him and we pick up who do we pick up after Ben? Oh no, we picked up Ambi. It's like Ambi plays the same role I do. Okay, well then I have to switch my role. That's okay. I'll switch. But it's just like the uncomfortability. You don't have a five that can work together very well if they're not used to playing a different role. So that's always been my concern with it. We tried Ambi on entry. I think we tried him flex. I don't know. He's on support now, which is what he played in T3, and he's really good at it. I mean, when we picked up Pablo and we did this LCQ run, he was doing very good. Like he's just good at it. So I think it works out more because I get to play a role that I'm more comfortable on. He gets to play his role.
Despite a new pickup who flew to Brazil to play at Invite on his 18th birthday, the Soniqs would go on to match their previous best placing at Invite, finishing top 6, with their 2 losses coming to Faze and W7M, who would go on to have one of the greatest finals we've ever seen. Returning home to NA, there would be more roster changes to come. With Citizen being offered a spot on M80, he would go on to accept that, and Grixer was benched by the team, who would go on to pick up a world champion in Merc and a strong new player to the league in Adam, formerly Tra, if anyone knew him by that name. They would beat Dark Zero but struggle, finishing 8th in a 9-team league. The last chance qualifier would see yet another shift, bringing Grixer off the bench and moving Geo down. The team would go on to look strong again, taking down Wildcard and running through Oxygen before losing a close game to XSG. You won't see the team in Manchester, but it appears they are in the process of forging a team that will look great come Stage 2, and if you look at SQ's history, it's kind of to be expected. Don't sleep on this new roster, with reliable, time-proven veterans like Rexen and Grixer, a man who stood atop the world once before, and young players with limitless potential. They have everything they need to go out and be great once again. That catches us up to the modern day, but while we've established Rexen as a winner and a success story in game, we haven't yet discussed the things that make him special outside the server, one of which is probably in the title of this video. You see, Rexen is deaf in one ear, meaning unlike the rest of us who are just making excuses, he probably really didn't hear that guy walking up on him. It should be a massive disadvantage, yet just watching him play, you'd never know as he's overcome this disadvantage by developing next level game sense, incredible aim, and some of the best recoil control you'll ever see. It's left to wonder if what should have been a hindrance turned him into the player he is today.
Yeah, so I feel like that would help because obviously if like if one of my senses is not working, the other ones are gonna make up for it. I know it's a common thing with people who like for example, like if I can't hear well, I have a good sense of smell or whatever to make up for the lack of hearing. I feel like that could also be the same way. Is okay if I can't hear as well, I need to have an understanding of like positioning or the enemies are gonna be. And yeah, I think that did help me. I had to learn the positions or like the cross placement or whatever it could be to make up for my lack of hearing.
How does someone end up deaf though?
So when I was really young, I had spinal meningitis. I was telling my mom about this the other day. I forget. Basically, there's like a buildup of fluid in my spine, and it can kill you. And the only reason I didn't die is because I was really fat as a baby, so I got lucky. A side effect from that is a loss of hearing. Now the issue is I don't know what the loss of hearing was from. It was either from that or it was from getting hit in the side of my head when I was younger. I went one time when I was like 11 or 12, and the guy had told me we needed to follow up on my ear because obviously it's an issue. And then I had one very recently between the last 2-3 years, and a different guy had told me that the bones in my ear are fractured. So I don't know which one it is. I still have to figure it out. So I have to get it. I moved back home. I'm not in Vegas right now, so I have to get a GP and then follow up with a specialist and get that checked out. So yeah, I wasn't born with it, but then I got spinal meningitis, and that kind of altered how it happened. So I'm not completely deaf, but I'm mostly deaf in that ear. If I were to plug my left ear right now, I wouldn't be able to hear much of anything, and so it's just kind of hard to play like that. It's pretty common for me, like if I'm in a clutch situation, or if I'm like roaming or something. I'll be like, "Yo, can someone call for me?" And then they'll just call what they hear.
We heard he may be looking into finding a way to get that hearing back, however, and that could be exciting.
I had asked about hearing aids because there's a Costco near me and they do free hearing exams. So I asked him. I looked into it. I know there's an over ear and there's one that's like into a deeper canal. Like it's a hat. It's like a fraction of the size, but it's smaller and it goes in your ear. And I was like, okay, I can look into that. And so when I did, I went and asked the guy. I was like, hey, is it possible to wear earbuds? And the hearing, because I was like, is there surgery? And he said surgery is the last thing they do before everything all else fails because it's not guaranteed to work and it's um yes, it's very bad. So, he was like, that's the last thing you do. So if not, you get the hearing aid. And I was like, okay. Do they like can I get molds of my ears? Or I asked him, I was like, okay, can I wear my in-ears and the hearing aid at the same time? He's like, well, it kind of goes into your canal. You can't do that. And I was like, okay, what if I get a mold of my ear and put the hearing aid into my earbuds? And he was like, that is something you can look into. But he's like, oh, these things also might have Bluetooth. And so, like, okay, well, if they have Bluetooth, I might be able to use that at events or something of that nature. Or I can, wear a headset, play the audio through the headset, and wear my hearing aids inside my ear. Because the way events work is you have your in-ears that you have to bring, and then they put a noise canceling headset on you, but you can play the audio through the headset. So obviously, if I have a medical note and I'm very clearly at a disadvantage because I'm not able to hear at the same level as the other players, I should be allowed to do that. So it's something I'm looking into. It's something I want to see if it's possible, because I feel like if I were able to hear, I'd be able to play a lot better and make better decisions, because majority of the time I can't hear. I kind of just have to, I have a feel of the game. I've played it for so long, so I understand where people are going to be. And that's just what I based it off of.
So the future looks bright as we can see an even better Rexen inside the server, but for a moment I want to look back at him not as a player, but as a person. You see, Rexen is my favorite player, but it's not because of the plays he makes, it's certainly not because he's an emberized ranked warrior, it's not the persistent belief in himself even if it is commendable. Nope, none of that. It's when the competitor gets pulled back and you see who he really is. See, I first saw Rexen way back playing ranked on a Kickstar stream. Fitting, I suppose, as they had 2 good ears between them. But Rexen would stream late at night when I was up working, and I would enjoy my time in those streams, where something he said would stick with me forever. With no FPLQ, he dropped all the way down to FPLR, where the average aspiring comp player could come and compete for a spot to play amongst the greats. He could have farmed these lobbies for clips, and that's exactly what you'd expect an Ash Jaeger main at the time to do, but he didn't. He played Thermite and Smoke, hanging back to drone, call, and set up site. Never searching for the limelight, he chose instead to elevate the players around him. Then when a fellow pro joined his lobby and asked him why he was playing like this, he told them that while these people weren't on his level, they wanted to learn the game and he was happy to teach them and be a part of helping their journey. I never thought I'd take wisdom from a comedian, but here I am. In his newest special Dreamer, Dave Chappelle would drop this little nugget on us.
You have to be wise enough to know when you were living in your dream. And you have to be humble enough to accept when you're in someone else's.
It turns out Rexen is a dreamer, always believing in himself, making the most of every moment at the top, wise enough to know that he is living in his dream. But when surrounded by those who just want the chance to get to where he is humble enough to offer them a hand. It goes beyond just lifting up the comp community, however, as he always has time for fans, like the time he reached out to me at Invite 2023, something I'll always remember and appreciate.
Yeah, I was gonna say I might be like, a bit abrasive or like standoffish, but I feel like I just speak the truth. And I mean, then again, like, I appreciate people that do support us, because obviously we're not, everyone's cup of coffee. Like, not everyone likes us, but I feel like it's for stupid reasons. But as I said, like, I appreciate you, anyone that supports us. It's nice. I like taking pictures. I like meeting people. Like another example from that event is I have a guy in my chat called Stilly Blade. It's something that's like Stilly Blade or Stilly01 or something. And I had never put like a face to the person. I thought it was like a bot in my chat, because he would always type the same thing every time. And I was like, maybe it's a bot or something, But once I met him and I put a face to the person, I was like, wow, that's really cool. That's not like just AI. Like, that's an actual person that, comes in my chat and he types the same thing every time. And it's cool, because it's just like, it's, I don't know, it's just something I'm able to put a face to it, and it's like I'm able to have that connection. So I just thought that was really cool. So yeah, as I said, like, even next event, like, you would go to, I would for sure, like to meet up, take a picture, hang out. I don't mind. I like doing that kind of thing. I like meeting people. So
There's plenty of players with nasty aim out there who can hit a clip. Some people bring more than that to esports, however. Some become a pillar on top of which we have built this silly little thing we call Siege. You won't see him in Manchester, but you can still follow along his journey as we wait for Stage 2. I'll be linking his socials and stream down below, but allow him to tell you where to follow.
YouTube, I think it's Rexen or RexenR6. Twitch, just Rexen. Twitter, RexenR6. Just trying to stream more consistently now that we're pretty much on break because we didn't make the major. So I want to stay consistent, do something other than nothing. So just stream, get viewers, try and get some subs, try and stay consistent with these new 10-mans.
No need to put words in his mouth. I'll let Rexen have his own outro for his fans.
No, I mean, I just appreciate you guys supporting me, supporting the team. I guess it'd be like cliches. Cliche sounds like we wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't for you guys. I mean, obviously, we're getting paid by the org, but it's nice to have someone like in our corner. Once something bad's happening, it's like, oh, okay, like I like the Soniqs. Just whether it be on Twitter, in the chat, or at the events, it's nice to always have someone on our side. So thank you. I really appreciate that. And I mean, yeah, I'm hoping to make the next event so I can see you, see the other fans, and go from there. That'll be great. I hate losing.
That'll do it on this one, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the content the last few weeks. Your support is why I get these interviews and why I keep reaching out to people. Do me a favor and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, I would like to point out a channel by the name of High Ground. He has a focus on Siege esports that can keep you far better informed about the scene as a whole than I could ever do, so go ahead and drop him a sub. With that being said, this is Purple signing off. Have a wonderful night, and always remember to smile. Thanks, guys.